making observations.
Oh, isn't that wonderful? There we go. Hello! Oh, I'm in the red. Hey. For all the non-people out there watching, I forgot to schedule it, but they'll appear. We don't care. We're just here for the fun. We're here for the banter. We're here to talk to Richard. Listen to Richard tell us why there's aliens out there. We were just discussing before we went online. Richard was asking again about when this came out. We talked about 160 or so years before
the Common Era.
Before Common Era was when it was written down. Richard was asking about... Hi, Andrew. Thanks for coming. Richard was asking about differences in religion and things like that. And like, if you come out with an alternative Jewish religion in the day, you know, you're going to get murdered. You're going to get shouted at and stuff like that. And I don't think that this was an alternative Jewish religion. I think that it was more, you know, we're talking in a time where stuff was transcribed orally, you know, and you've got different sections and different people, and you know, you've got little local areas and little local sections and things like that, and you know, it's not a mainstream sort of printing press. So think, for talk's sake, to be arbitrary, you've got little square box and that's your country, right? Perfectly square, just to make it nice and easy, and you've split it up into 4 sections. Everybody in that section, you know, everybody as a whole was told the story of, say, Genesis, and then you leave 400 years or you leave 500 years. Each one of those 4 sections are going to have a different oral tradition based upon the same thing.
Sure.
When writing comes around, they're not going to have box 1 right for everybody. They're going to have box 1 right for box 1 because we don't have printing presses. We don't have mainstream. So you're going to see slight variations, I would say, in the actual original. I don't see it as an alternative, so to speak. We see it as an alternative now because 2,000 years have passed and a lot of men stepped in and went, this is canon. So it's not, you know, it's them men in the early Christian church that made the Bible that we read now canon. So the fact that this disagrees with some of the things that was made canon is a reason for it, so to speak. You know, you've got box 1, box 2, and box 3, and they've all got a very similar version. And you've got box 4, which one guy took fucking acid before he passed the message on. And there's a wee bit more about aliens. So they're like, oh, well, that guy's weird, so we're not going to include his. But you can see that his is still 70 to 80% the same as the other ones. Do you understand what I mean?
That's fair. But it would be going too far if there were absolutely conflicting ideas. Like, it's fine to form a sentence any number of ways and it could have the same meaning. MathPig had a very cool Ford 2-door car with a specialized license plate on it.
Right.
Is one way to say that. Or MathPig bought a specialized license plate for a super cool Ford car is another way to say that.
Yes, but that's maintaining that.
But those wouldn't be argumentative.
Okay, right. We'll take this as an example, right? The same story was told to box 1, 2, 3, and 4. The box 3, say for talk's sake, never changed it. Box 3 was full all the way, balls deep into their religion, so they never changed what they wrote. Box 1, 2, and 4, as time went on, became slightly more, I don't want to say skeptical thinking, but you can see the direction on the scale where we're going, and they looked at it and went, fucking aliens flying down, or fucking angels flying down, I've never seen that, that's mad, I can't believe that, so we'll take that bit out, or we leave that bit out. So just because it's argumentative doesn't necessarily mean, hi Captive Desk, doesn't necessarily mean that this is the wrong one. I would say that it's more plausible from a skeptical point of view that aliens didn't come. I don't want to say don't exist, but aliens didn't come. It's more probable that, you know, as I say, sometimes Christ could be 6 people melded together into one. These are more probable answers than angels and aliens and stuff. So as much as people believe in that, they would have lent towards more spiritual than physical.
Okay, that's relatively fair, but you did change from consistency within stories to consistency with reality.
I'm
talking about consistency within the stories.
Yes, I understand that, but you know, if you've based, like, if I grew up and I told Elena that such and such, you know, say there's aliens and they come down and they helped create me, you know,
Sure.
as she grows up, she's not going to see any evidence of that.
Fair enough.
You know, so she's going to start doubting her daddy. And then by the time she has a kid, she's going to tell her kid, well, you know, daddy said that aliens created us, but I never seen no evidence of that. Then by the time it gets to my great grandkids, it's like, yeah, great grandpa used to say this, but that's probably mad. So this is actually what actually happened.
Yeah, great grandpa was a little quirky.
Yeah,
not necessarily accurate. A little weird.
So even though great grandpa's telling the truth, it's a quirky idea. It's a quirky, you know, it's a little bit out there. So I could see how over a period of 400 or 500 years, which could be upwards of 10 generations depending on their lifespan, you know, not only is it great granda, it's great grand is a little quirky.
Yeah.
So the fact that
the story changes more and more the further you go down the line. Yeah. In a Chinese whispers kind of way. Sure.
But in the opposite direction, where it doesn't get more extreme and weird, you know, you start with saying Robbie wears his slippers, and by the end of Chinese Whispers, you get Robbie's wearing pineapples on his feet. You actually started with pineapples. Robbie did wear pineapples on his feet, and the Chinese Whispers each time is getting more. Yeah, why would he wear pineapples on his feet? I don't know. Yeah. And then it's down to he wears bananas on his feet, and then it's big feet, and then it's this, and then before you get there. Right. It's like he must have just been wearing fucking wood made from a pineapple tree, and he was wearing clogs.
Do you think that's what happened here? Is over time they were trying to make it more believable?
Now, again, make it more believable comes with intent. I don't think that they were making it more believable. I just feel, you know, again, I'm just giving an option. This isn't necessarily my opinion directly. We were just bouncing back and forth. I'm just giving a possibility, you know, that I don't think they made it more believable. I don't think I would go out of my way. Like, I don't think my mother's crazy. I don't think my granny's crazy. They have both told me that they've experienced things and seen things that, you know, I've only seen a little bit of. We've discussed before. Sure. Hey, Dark. So the idea of, you know, you're not going to think your parent is crazy. The next person's not going to think their parent is crazy. The next person's not going to think their parent was crazy. And before you know it, they're not trying to make it more believable. It becomes more in tune with what they see as reality.
I think that happens easily with translations, even accidentally. And the people don't have to have the intent of fixing it, but the way they look at life when they translate it into the next society or the next language, they're going to stick some of that in there. I mean, in that way, I agree with you.
Yeah.
But if Grandpa Robbie wore pineapple wood sandals, became very different from that.
Well, let's not say it's very different. Let's say that Robbie wore pineapple on his feet, became Robbie wore clogs made out of a pineapple tree.
No, it has to be absolutely contradictory. I'm talking
about. It is contradictory. One is me wearing fruit on my feet, and the other is me wearing a standardized type of shoe that was available at the time.
Sure. Okay, that works for this example. It would lose its meaning, and it's just changed too much.
Considering I live in Northern Ireland, no. Again, because where would I find a pineapple tree in this country? I wouldn't, but I would find pineapples.
Okay, I don't know why you said that.
because the meaning is still the same. Say the point of the story was to point out how crazy I am.
Okay.
Right? That's the point of the story, okay? And the point of the story is he wore pineapples on his fucking feet. Man must be mad. By the time it gets to the end, I'm wearing clogs in 2023 made out of a pineapple tree. I'm still fucking mad. But I'm not as mad as wearing pineapples on my feet. So it's, you know, the meaning of the story wasn't lost. It just got toned down and we made it more in line with reality.
Okay,
because it is more
that's
probable.
a great example of what I'm not talking about.
Okay, go on ahead.
If it became absolutely like in a binary sense, both ideas can't be true, and we have record of both ideas. Like we're reading this, but we still have the Old Testament. It's still available.
Right. So what would you do if we have records of both of them? If you were to determine, right? So you've got the crazy story Robbie wearing pineapples and the crazy story Robbie wearing shoes, clogs. Sure. How do you discern which one would be more original?
That's not what I'm actually seeing. So I'd like to slightly change that to I have thousands of stories of you wearing pineapple shoes made of pineapples.
Yeah.
And I don't care how crazy it is.
Right.
And then I have one story where it says he never wore shoes at all. Well, one of them has to be wrong.
Right. So how would you?
Because even pineapple shoes are shoes.
So how would you discern then the difference between which one was true and which one was not? You're using the fact that there's there's more stories saying one thing than the other as evidence. Now, if we walked down and the story was just given out, it was only given out 5-6 years ago, and there's thousands of copies of this one, and there's only 5 or 6 copies of the really crazy one, then I would understand your point. The difference is 2,000 years have went past. So for me to discern which is more evidence, I would look back and see, is there any record of what was popular back in the day? Is there any record of an original version in this little time? Because 5 years ago, I can go get the original. It's still on your shelf. 2,000 years ago, I can't. So I have to rely on the people that came before me. That's the difference. Because, just because there's more numbers of it doesn't mean that it necessarily was the correct story.
All right, it doesn't make either one of them correct.
Well, that's what
I'm
saying.
6 copies of things or 6,000 copies of a thing.
Well, using inference, if I was traveling back in time and I walked into an old library and I seen 4 copies of Genesis and 7 copies of the Book of Jubilees, and it had just been come out, and it was just, and I'd be like, what's your favorite book? And they're like, look at my shelf, there's 7 Jubilees and only 4 Genesis. I can infer then that the Book of Jubilees would have been more important,
more popular or something, yeah.
Right. Well, that's what we get from the Dead Sea Scrolls, is the fact that there is more copies of the Book of Jubilees. It's the 5th most recorded version book type of, in the Dead Sea Scrolls. So using the Dead Sea Scrolls as the analogy of a time machine in a library, it's at least popular. And I can make the argument that it's probably at least as popular as the standardized, what has become standardized.
What I should do is, during this coming week, I should go and look for Jews who think that the Book of Jubilees is valid.
Why?
Because their scholars really study this stuff, and they could have reasons as to accept it or reject it, and that would be interesting.
Right. Well, my reason for picking this has nothing to do with 2 days scholars. My reason for picking this is the fact that it does disagree. It's the fact that it is older. And it has validity in the point that when scholars have read it, all these things that I've said to you, it's popular, it's this, that, and this other, right? I'm trying to have a look at what Christianity was and a slightly different version of what has become mainstream. For the reason being that you base your story on mainly the Bible and other things and all these different religions, and you say any ancient story is the same story. So I've picked a story specifically that disagrees with canon of the Christian Bible. Because the canon of the Christian Bible has been decided upon by men.
By Christians, yeah.
Right? Where according to you, the original story was told by the angels, possibly in Enochian, as we refer to it now, right? But it was, so I'm looking for what was, this to me has more validity as an original story. The fact that it was ignored, put away, and forgot about is more, gives it to me, you know, more originality. Like, I don't want to say I put more weight in this than Genesis because I don't want to say that, but can you see where I'm leaning?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's definitely worth a view, and for all of the reasons you've mentioned.
Right. I think we've went down that. Yeah.
But if I see places where it in a binary way, like one statement has to be false because there's two conflicting, mutually defeating statements.
Like in chapter 1 where it says heaven is on earth and everywhere else it says heaven's in the sky.
Right.
So you just throw it out then because of that.
I'm going to point it out and I'm going to point it out and I'm going to hold that in my filing cabinet and say that's a possible negative. We'll have to see in long-term context what it's getting at. But that looks weird to me.
Right, okay. Well, let me rephrase the question a wee bit more before we even start this fucking show. We've been rambling, right? Why is what has been made canon by men correct, and what is older and closer to the original story, which again, you argue, all stories, old stories are this.
Yeah.
So why would an older, more truer to the original version be less valid than one 2,000 years later that was decided upon by men?
And let me give you the idea, and then I'll give a quick example, not to belabor the point very much.
No, I don't want an example. I want an answer, but go on.
Well, yeah, I know you want an answer, but after I give the answer, I think a lot of people, maybe not you, would want an example of that. If it is a singular work, which in a binary way is defeating of the rest of the works, which works were separated by time space, geography, peoples, and all say the same thing, then I'm going to say the outlier is wrong because these people couldn't even spoke to each other. They didn't know each other to have the same story. And then I've got this one outlier that says all the rest of it's wrong. I'm going to say no, the outlier is wrong.
Okay, right. So we would say no, the outlier is wrong. We would say the more popular one and the more agreed with one. Right. Well, in the time frame of when Christianity first started, we're now going to throw out Genesis. And we're going to read this using your argument because this was more popular. This was more agreed upon.
That's not all I said. I didn't just say popular in one area.
I understand that. You said if this... Okay, well, more of this was around.
Yeah.
So this was the mainstream.
In that area at that time, fine.
Yes. And that's when Christianity... but Christianity came... Christianity and the story of Christ, okay, according to you, has not happened.
Yeah, when this was written down, that story had not been introduced to any public peoples.
Right. So it was written down in the time of it coming out in Christianity. So when it was first written down and first given to the people, this version was more popular.
Yes, that's fine.
So this one is closer, in my opinion, to what the original story would have been.
And this is why I wanted to give an example of such a thing. You're not going to get Islam to agree that, first of all, the moon was not split already. They're not going to agree to that. They think it was a thing of the past. Okay? And you're not going to get Christians to agree with me that the story of David and Goliath is about near-stellar objects you could witness with your eyes.
Okay.
But in a binary solar system, the occurrence of David and Goliath not only would wipe out 1/3 of the stars in appearance, it would also split the moon in half. And I'm talking about things like that, where they think it has nothing to do with they don't think they're interrelated stories because the way they view them, but the way that I view them, they are necessarily interrelated. So if this made the statement, instead of the moon being split in half or us being in a binary solar system, if this made the statement and the sun exploded, I'd be like, this is bullshit.
Right. Well, can I also point out that Islam is 500 years younger than Christianity? Okay.
People should be aware of that, yes.
Right. Most people are aware of that. Again, this is another 500 years after Christianity started. I want to go back to the original, Richard. According to you, all the stories at the start were told are this story.
Yes.
So just because another book that another group of men decided upon aligned with the other popular one, again, like I feel
okay,
that
I shouldn't have stayed on the same continent. You know, I can do that like on every continent around the planet, right?
you can.
Yeah,
Right.
because the stories are there.
The point I'm trying to point out is there is, you personally can make any attack. Like I could read Islam and I could, the Kalam or whatever it's fucking, I don't know what the fuck. Yeah, and I could read the Bible and I could say that they were connected on a totally different thing. I could find a connection on them personally through a completely different thing. What you need to look for is the evidence that shows them that they're attached. Hi Tina. Hi Bree.
Oh, hey guys.
You know, from a logical stepping point, story told to people. Very popular story. Over time, story gets diluted. Mm-hmm. This story then becomes very popular because the slightly diluted version is easier to believe. Because more people of the time agree, now they're wrong, but more people at the time agree that there's more chance of there being a sky daddy than aliens.
Sure, okay.
So they're going to lean towards the sky daddy one.
Right.
And that becomes the popular one.
Sure.
That becomes mainstream. And then 500 years later, you've got a shoot-off religion, which is Islam, based upon the 500 years of the diluted version. It's going back to the original. It's trying to use this against you, so to speak. If you tell me that every story is original and I get into a time machine and went back and got the fucking original and came here and read it and it disagreed with what you came to the conclusion of because your conclusions were based on what was made mainstream, you're just going to throw it out. Even though I went back in a fucking time machine and got it.
That's not fair. I mean, I can see your point, and yes, a person could do that.
No, I can't. We can't time travel. But this is what I'm trying to achieve.
No, I mean, a person could think of it wrong that way for those reasons.
Yeah.
I'm not saying you're wrong in that way.
It's sort of a dickish move, but it's Richard says old stories all are the same, and Robbie deliberately goes and gets a book that's an original story that totally disagrees with you, just to go, you're fucking wrong. It's as blunt and dickish as that. But
no, it's fine. But okay, this is 120 to 150 BCE, right? Something like that, and that makes the Tanakh some 3,000 years-ish older than that. So it was very available. The Old Testament, what we call the Old Testament in this part of the world, very available, even though our translations suck. I'm not saying our translations are good. And that's why the Jews say you need to read it in Hebrew, you don't understand it, and they argue with the Christians. It's because the Christians don't It's because they're right. The Christians don't understand it because they're reading something different. They're not reading the Old Testament, But if this has like a defeating statement where the two can't agree with each other, I think I should default to consensus. That's what I'm saying.
See, I
Because
can't
this
argue
is
with
not
that wordage.
consensus
I
in
can't
any
argue
way.
with that wordage. The wordage that you just put it in, I can't argue with that because it's now and here and then that we're talking about, you know.
Sure.
But
So maybe
history
you
is
can
a
refresh
guessing.
my memory.
History is a guessing game, you know.
A lot of it.
You know,
A lot of it.
a lot of history is a guessing game, and we can only go with what we can prove, and you can never definitively prove anything 100%. You know, we can only
It's
make
very difficult.
educated guesses and different inferences and things like that. I don't know. Like, I recently watched Timeline. I don't know if you know. You haven't watched Timeline. It's a book by Michael Crichton turned into a movie. It's got Billy Connolly in it. It's so bad they ruined the fucking book altogether. But it's that bad it's good. And it's got Billy Connolly. And there was a part of there are archaeologists in it. They're looking at a sarcophagus. And one guy says to the other guy, you know, this is a very strange way of a type of sarcophagus because they're holding hands in it rather than be beside each other, you know, a man and wife. They must really love each other. And you can tell that, you know, he suffered at a time because his ear's missing. And the other guy was like, no, you can, a piece of his ear could have just fallen off over the last fucking 700 years. It's been out in the wind and the rain. He's like, no. Because you can look at it. You can talk of the shape of the patina, the colour, you know, you can infer things. So we know that that guy had missing an ear because we can tell it was carved that way rather than knowing it's just a chunk come off. You understand?
Sure.
It's more plausible to think that that guy had his ear chopped off in a battle than it is to think he was born without an ear.
Yeah, that would be kind of unusual, yeah.
But we can't
Whereas,
say that he definitely 100% lost his ear. He could have been born without an ear. He could have lost it as a kid and grown up deaf and not lost it in a battle. You know,
or grown up without the ear and had hearing.
there's, you know, could have been walking around with a big fucking tin thing like this, helping himself. We don't know. You know, we just don't know. But we can only infer what's more probable. And
Okay, back then it probably would have been copper, not tin, but that's beside the point.
oh, go fuck yourself, you pinickety bastard. Right? Right, well, let's actually read the fucking story because we've been going now for
I guess
over
we
a
could give
half
that
an
a
hour
try.
and we literally have not read.
No. Have we?
Yes, 32 minutes. Just hit the half hour mark.
It was still, it needed said. The stuff needed said, I'm sure of it.
At least we
Okay.
weren't late.
Chapter 2. And the angel of the presence, which refers back to the last verse in the previous chapter, spake to Moses according to the word of the Lord, saying, write the complete history of the creation.
Yeah, we did a wee bit.
Yeah.
We read the first two verses just as at the end of the last one, but we didn't discuss them.
Opposed to the incomplete one, which belongs in a religious text.
No, you see, now you're being a wee bit, I feel, biased, or not biased. Biased. You're against this book. I feel that by saying
I'm getting that way.
I feel like you saying, oh, the complete history. Why would you not
like
write the complete history? But when we read Revelations and they used very flowery words to exaggerate things, like say 5 million men when they only meant 5,000, you would say, they're making a point that it's a large amount of men. Well, I'm going to say that they're just making a point of make sure it's done.
I can't think of one time that I said that in concern of the book of Revelation.
When we were talking about large numbers of people dying or large numbers of people doing, the number is not relevant. The size of the number is relevant.
Okay, I did agree the numbers were too rounded off and don't make sense as real numbers. I did say that.
You're very specific on the
too
140.
generalized.
You're very specific on the 144,000. I think it is the army of men.
Yeah, that one is
that one is
super
very
pronounced.
specific. You do not
Yeah.
change in that. But when it's talking about all of the men of the earth or whatever, and it's 5 men, and it uses big numbers in Revelations, I'm sure any of the audience that have seen it, you have said that the number is not the number of people, but it's the size it is, and it's as big as it is to make a point of how it's big.
This is going to be too far off topic. I am starting to look at this and go, what the hell? I am. And here's why. Saying complete history is like saying capital T truth. It's not necessary. The truth is the truth. You don't have to make it a capital T truth. The capital T truth is already the regular lowercase t truth.
Yeah, and you don't
Because
need to
truth is
repeat the same
objectively
thing.
what is.
You don't need to repeat the same thing 5 times to make a point, but Revelations did that too.
I didn't repeat myself.
No. I did not. Not you. Revelations did.
I'm fine with that style because I understand that the language had to be repetitive in places to make a point. I'm okay with which I think Monty Python does a great job of making fun of. But I understand why it would be written that way, why it would be repetitive, especially in like the Aramaic and Hebrew. That's kind of necessary.
For lack of a better words, I'm going to try and say something. For lack of better words, I feel that what I've said before is lacking. Fuck me, are we going to read this? I am under the impression that with the exception of the 144,000, with the exception of, say, 7, because it's very important, and the number 23 of how many Earths and stuff, I am under the impression that certain numbers are very important to you in that. I would also be under the impression that certain words, certain numbers on a wider scale, when they're talking grandness rather than specificness, grandness is an exaggerated number. I do believe you used the phrase exaggerated. They're exaggerated numbers to make a point. That's what I've been under the belief of.
Okay. I'd have to like get down to nuts and bolts of specific sightings to sort that out.
But you would agree on a vague broad brush. And that's where I'm getting and making the point that just by saying complete history, it's not even capitalized, it's just there, it's just every detail. Like you could record the history of Northern Ireland from my point of view.
$5 that says they won't do it in the next few verses or the next several chapters. They won't do that.
And there's things in Revelations that they told him to do that they didn't do. Again, this is like, you know, of course the complete history. This is the future, remember, Richard. From your point of view, this hasn't happened.
No, to the seventh day. Seventh day would be future. Sixth day would be now, as far as I can understand.
All these stories from the past have happened in other Earths or are due to happen in the future.
Sure. In that way, they're historical. Yeah.
Right. Okay. I could say to you, would you write down the history of MathPig in Northern Ireland? And you're going to go and you're going to look up records and you can find out information and you can talk to people who I used to work with and stuff. And that's the history of MathPig in Northern Ireland.
Fair enough.
Now, if I said to you, go and get the complete history of MathPig in Northern Ireland, like, if possible, the complete history would be following me every day. And my exact moment, Robbie took a poo. He got up. He brushed his beard. He went to work. That's a complete history. So again, it's just making the emphasis of...
I agree, it's making an emphasis.
Yeah, more detail than normal. Hey, Ox, more detail than normal.
So I'm
also, Darg, I got your cheese joke. I looked at it and I was like, why did he spell brie like cheese? And then you followed it up with a cheesy joke. And I was like, that's why. Funny. I'm back here. I'll go back. Right, let's read more than one fucking sentence of the show in 40 minutes.
How in 6 days the Lord God finished all his works and all that he created, and kept Sabbath on the seventh day, and hallowed it for all ages, and appointed it as a sign for all his works. I like that last sentence, the way it's phrased, but there's nuance in that from all his works. For all his works. There's nuance in that gives an idea of completion of all of the intent, not partially done or mostly done. And I really like the way that's worded, but there's nothing surprising there.
Right, you see, this my brain's going mad here, but again, not talking about this and more where we're going with this. I feel going forward that you're going to find in this big differences that you disagree with. for example, heaven up here, heaven down here. Big fucking difference that you will disagree with.
That's a big
doesn't line up.
difference. Yeah.
I also feel that as we read this, you're going to agree with smaller nuances and the way that it's worded.
Sure. And I'll be looking for, is that accidental or purposeful?
Well,
Like,
we've only hit
does-
chapter 2, but I feel that on the smaller ways, like say for talk's sake, on things that this will agree with, and maybe the whatever agrees with. We're going to use Jesus rising up to the sky, right? I know it's New Testament, but if this says, if the canonized version went, Jesus stepped on a cloud, floated up, and this version was, he stepped upon a lighting cloud that reached up into a bigger cloud, you'd be like, that's fucking steps into a spaceship. It's more. So I feel that on the things that it agrees with, it will say them better. But on the things that you disagree with, it'll be gone. And I think that in my mind will justify that you're crazy and this I'm right.
Okay. I'm supposing, having made the claim complete history, it's going to throw some stuff in there. And those are the parts I'm going to have problems with.
The completeness of it, the extra bit, like you're going to read it and go, why do I want to know about MathPig taking a poo? I don't need the complete history.
Well, I just spotted the words winter, spring, and autumn, and
Stop it! Right,
It's a little bit ahead.
stop
of
it!
where
Just
I'm
read
at
it.
right now.
Read it out loud, you motherfucker! Stop.
Yeah. For on the first day he created the heavens which are above. That could mean a lot of things. It might work for me.
Small
and
h.
the earth, and the waters, and all the spirits which serve before him. On the first day he created angels. Is that what that reads? All the spirits which serve before him?
I don't know if it says that, but I do know that there's more information in this about the creation of the angels and them. So I'm going to say yes from my basic knowledge that I have of it. But I know that it is in more detail.
It expounds on it right here in the next words. The angels of the presence, and the angels of the sanctification, and the angels of the spirit of fire, and the angels of the spirit of the winds, and the angels of the spirit of the clouds, and of the darkness, and of snow, and of hail, and of hoarfrost. That's right out of Enoch. And the angels of the voices, and the thunder and of the lightnings, and the angels of the spirits of the cold and the heat, and of the winter and spring and autumn and summer, of all the spirits of the creatures which are in the heavens. This is wrong. This is wrong because it assumes there was nothing at all before this earth, including angels. That just doesn't match anything anywhere.
Well, we know it.
This,
when you say it doesn't match, all I hear is you saying this is non-canonic.
this is early Christianity. That's what the hell this is.
Yes, and the point being that Christianity could maybe possibly be a religion with lots of different versions that's been canonized over time, and what you're basing your religion on is something man-made and not an original old story told by aliens.
Sure, I'm pointing out the dichotomy of it, the dichotomous nature of it, that it's one or the other, but this is very defeating of the other thing. Like, you couldn't get a Jew to agree to this in any way. There's no way a Jew would agree to this.
Okay, but would a Jew from 2,000 years ago agree with this?
I don't think so.
Well, the evidence shows
It's
different.
hard to get one to talk right now.
It
But
is sort of
the
hard.
Jews,
They're dead,
Yeah, but
you know.
yeah,
but-
they're a little dead right now. But,
So we
but
have to
Jews,
go off the evidence, and again, I fall back on the Dead Sea Scrolls and what was more popular. So a Jew
Jews,
from 2,000 years ago probably would agree. Why
No,
is this happening?
they absolutely would not. And
You
here's
don't
why I
know.
would say
Again,
that.
you can You can't say you cannot say they absolutely would not. We just had a discussion about how fucking history we don't know.
We do know when people kept track and kept good records. We do know that.
And we know
Like,
that
if I can make the statement we have good evidence that Romans actually crucified people all the time.
yeah.
if I can say that, then I can say Jews kept good records of their scholars and their opinions on Tanakh, and we still have those writings.
I love that
And
example.
we do.
I love that example. Right. We have lots of evidence to show that Romans crucified people. Loads of it.
Yeah.
On axis.
Sure. Not the Christian story, right.
Not this. This.
Yeah. Also poles, also trees, literal
But
trees.
very,
Yeah.
very, if ever this.
That would be weird.
That is weird. But it's mainstream and accepted everywhere, where there's literally symbols made upon it everywhere.
That's a presentism fallacy. Just because Christians think right now that used to be normal, that doesn't make it normal back then.
Okay then, dude. But then that's what you just did when saying if I go and ask a Jew now instead of a Jew when this was popular. That's a presentism fallacy then. Explain to me why that's not a presentism.
I'll tell you what. I will search for any Hebrew scholar ever that would agree that angels were made the same time as the planet. And you look for the opposite.
Well, no, hold on now. The way you worded that, I have a problem. I could not find a Jew that would believe that. What I'm not saying, I'm not looking for a Jew today that believes that. I'm not. My argument is that this is more popular, and Jews 2,000 years ago, when it was first being written down, more of them agreed with this story than what has been canonized. I give reasons for it with the whole dilution and stuff.
Wait, you're saying Jews held to this?
Well, the Jewish religion came before Christianity.
So wait, Jews temporarily adopted this and then went back to their old ways? Is that what you're claiming?
No. Hold on. Again, with the bad wordage, I'm just trying. I may have made it like this came. This was written down 160 years before Christianity.
Sure, fine.
So who were the people who believed Christianity before Christianity existed? They were Jews.
Okay, they were an offshoot of Judaism, sure.
They were Jews.
No, they weren't. They can't be Jews. Very loosely, you could call them Jews, or you could say they were Jewish based. You could say something like that, but they have to be some kind of offshoot. They can't be Jews.
Just like you can't be a Christian.
That's right. Same reasoning.
Yeah, and you still go around and tell people you're a Christian because it's the word that you use to describe yourself. And then you say another word.
My definition.
Yes, it's part of who you are, not a definition of who you are.
Yeah, fine.
Yeah, and being a Jew was part of their definition.
Yeah, but we're talking about what is consensus, what is acceptable, what the scholars back then and the Jewish religious people would have believed back then before this book even showed up and during the time this book arrived and became popular.
I cannot tell you what people believed. I can just go off the evidence and say that this book was more widely replicated than other versions.
I get that. I'm willing to accept that.
And I can only come to the conclusion that this was more widely believed in and accepted.
Okay, it's very Christian-y. It's not very Jewy.
Yeah, that's cool. I don't I don't know. I'm just saying the only thing that I'm making an argument for is I am inferring that this version was more popular at the time it was around than what has been canonized.
That's fine.
That's the only argument I'm making. I can't why is this going off like fucking phone's going crazy?
When we say something is more popular, we're saying it's more popular within a certain demographic, a certain people, right? Of some certain area. That's what we mean by more popular, right? So I'm gonna go back and look for evidence that this was more popular amongst Jews than traditional Judaism. which was already about 3,000 years old.
I am
Written
going to
down.
go on the fucking hunt. Does anybody in the audience? Oh, hey, hold on. Unless
I don't think we're
hold,
going
hold
to
on, if I
find
can
that
just
this
address
was
something.
accepted by Jews.
Okay, please don't delete any comments from anybody unless it's an absolute slur or something like that. I know that per Jill needs attention. Okay, Jill
Make him a
is a
mod.
very lonely person that he just wants people. They get a kick out of you deleting them.
Yeah. Make him a mod.
There is no heaven. That the message that they sent was there is no heaven. That's not an insult. Right? They're making fun of my accent or whatever. That's fine. I have no. I don't see what they wrote as an insult. All right.
So you're saying let it fly. Okay.
Yeah, I want everybody here as Ox. Ox was making a point about coming in to get kicked out. That's okay. Let him pick an Ox. Ox is one of the thickest skinned motherfuckers in the community. Ox can take it.
You can't hurt Ox.
You cannot hurt Ox. You know, Jill just wants attention, and when you delete his comments or you kick him or do that, you're acknowledging.
He's happier.
He's happier. I've give him his little buzz for tonight because I've now mentioned it. So just let them slide. You know, they just want a hug. That's it. They're just crying for attention. So let's actually, in 45 minutes, try to get on to fucking verse 2. No, we did do that. Go on ahead.
We started it. We started verse 2.
Yeah.
Let me find where I was. He created the abysses of the darkness, the eventide and night, and the light, dawn and day, which he hath prepared in the knowledge of his heart. Which he hath prepared in the knowledge of... I can go that far. I got little problems with it because it's not creating ex nihilo, and this looks like creation ex nihilo, whereas the original words in the Hebrew text do not mean that, but I could see phrasing it this. I'm willing to bend that far.
See, I knew you'd, yeah.
I'm trying to be reasonable.
I'm not going to be called a hypocrite, all right? I don't know if that's directed at me, Jill. This is the last time I'm saying it, okay? No point in talking about what was talked about. It's past. It's moved on. And no, Beck, I appreciate you're going to unsubscribe. Okay. That's fine. If that's how you feel, because I want all comments to be seen. I want Jill's insults to be seen. I want his disgraceful nature to be seen. And if I have to either unmod you because you can't hold yourself back and your only other option is to unsubscribe, then you need to work on your willpower a wee bit. So, last time I'm talking about that. Yeah, so as I said, Richard, earlier, there is going to be certain points that you agree with the wording is better, but the big things you disagree with. So, I will move up a wee bit.
That seems reasonable. Very last of 2. And then 3. Okay, 3. And thereupon we saw his works, and praised him, and lauded before him on account of all his works. For 7 great works did he create on the first day.
I'd have to go back and count and see if all them things is 7 above, but I think there's 7, more than
Probably.
7 angels.
Probably.
Could be
It's
talking
probably-
about a lot of things there.
You could probably add it up to 7 things. Like seasons is one thing, day
Yeah.
night that's one thing.
Yeah,
You could
yeah,
probably
yeah.
do that.
Yeah. We could probably find a scholar that would do that for us.
Probably.
Okay. Second day, he created the firmament in the midst of the waters, and the waters were divided on that day. Half of them went above, half of them went down below the firmament, that was, and in the midst over the face.
Whoa.
And
Can't
in
go
the
below
midst
the
of
firmament.
And this was the only work God created on the second day.
Okay, if you go below the firmament, you're living in caves in the crust. That's below the firmament.
I know. Now, again, it's been a wee while since I've read the Bible and stuff. This is why it's fun to do with you. But there's always the meme with people using the biblical scholars, and without a direct quote that I can go to in the Bible, the firmament was created and there was waters above and below. Whenever things were flooded, did water not come from above and below?
2 firmaments were created, one above, one below.
It specifically said, hold on. Now, in the canonized version, then, if I can ask, it specifically said 2 firmaments.
Yes. And the idea is very prominent. I think it's unavoidable.
If any of the mods could go back and have a wee check in the canonized Christian Bible, I don't care, Catholic, Protestant, one of them too, and find me the direct verse and the quote where it says 2 firmaments, and in which book would this be relative to Genesis or relative to the Tanakh? We're Genesis, yeah. It just put a wee
Genesis,
bit of yeah. So somewhere in Genesis, if somebody could find me where it says firmament above and a second firmament below, not a firmament above and below. I don't want it worded above and below.
Just index the word waters.
Waters. I can't do that.
And in Genesis, it'll say divide waters from the waters. That's King James phraseology, but that'll put you in the right verse.
Okay, we'll leave that in the hands of the mods. And
here's what they're going to find. The waters above are throughout the firmament. The waters below are on the firmament.
That's your interpretation, or that's what it says?
No, that's word for word what it reads.
Okay, well that's what. We'll wait. Am I giving you a wrench, Jill? No. Different versions from different mods would be appreciated. I hope that people find different versions because I wanted to reinforce second firmament.
That'd be fine.
I wanted to say second firmament over and over and over again. That would give me more validity because it's multiple times in the same story. So that to me says that 1, 2, and 1, 2, and 4 out of the boxes we referred to earlier has more validity to it.
I'm just going to look it up and tell you where to find it.
No, we're moving on. We need to actually read some of this fucking book.
It's Genesis 1:6.
Right, and I've got Genesis 1:7 from
1:6.
Maya.
Yes, that's the neighborhood, yes. I would start at 6 personally, but yes.
And God made, thank you, Maya, and God made not both,
Keep reading.
and divided the waters which were under the firmament from the waters which were above the firmament. And it was so. It says that there's waters both. It says, reading that to me, which were under the firmament. I'm saying it that many times, I fucking lost the ability to say it. Firmament.
Okay, so here you go. You got a curvature, a hard curvature. That's what firmament means. And in the first half, you got stuff like here, and then you have another firmament, and you have stuff like inside of it. This one's above, this one's below.
It says under.
Yes, I just said that.
Yes, but
because this one is under this one. Yes.
Oh, so you're reversing it, right? So to speak.
Well, heaven and earth could come in either order, earth and heaven. It doesn't matter.
Okay, well, I can't be arsed doing a poll, but I see one firmament referred to in that, and I see one firmament referred to in that. The only difference I see...
Are there two different firmaments? That's the question.
The only difference that I see is them using under instead of below.
And as soon as you read that waters come out of the windows of the firmament of heaven, you have to say it's two separate ones. Now, some people think that means the sky and there's water in outer space.
No.
Some people think that.
No, some people may think that. All right, they're fucking insane. A lot of Christians
insane,
believe
yeah.
that when they said firmament and the windows of the sky opened, it could be rain that kept coming. There's lots of different interpretations, but
Sure.
that's their versions of what they think. And I'm talking about this one line relative to this one line.
Sure.
Complete misreading of the verses by Richard. Sorry.
Yep. This is exactly what I expect to hear.
There's your interpretation must change from an older works to match your alignment. Like, I don't even see why you're disagreeing.
If you don't
with
mind, I don't
under-
understand the last sentence that you just said, and I would need clarity.
The fact that I didn't get to finish and you talked over the end, I was like, cunt talked over me, then thought about that, then thought about this, and I don't know what I said. In the
You said I'm
exact
cherry
words.
picking the text and reading it the
No,
way I want.
no. Sorry. Thank you for putting me back on the same track. I don't know why you're arguing over this point. I feel that this point is semantical because under and below, I see no differences. It says the firmament. It says here the firmament. I don't think it's an argument worthwhile having.
Nope. It definitely is. Would you share my screen? Can you share my screen on this?
I can
screen?
on this setup, Richard. Yes, go on ahead.
Okay. All right. Can you see Genesis 1:6? Oh, I didn't share it yet. Hold on. a
No,
second.
you haven't. I'm sitting waiting. I'm wiggling my mouse.
Thank you. Sorry. I missed a few buttons there. Okay, so you can see Genesis 1:6 in Blue Letter Bible here.
Yeah, and lost everybody else, and lost me, and lost you, because you're. Oh my goodness! Right. Now, go for it.
Okay, great.
Oh no,
All right.
Richard, I can't. Can you send me the link? I can't share.
I'm just going to read it. I'm just going to read it. You guys can say, oh, he's making up exactly what sounds like perfect definitions, but no one's going to think that. Okay?
Hold on. There.
Okay. So in the King James, and God said, let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters. Let it divide the waters from the waters. Okay? Genesis 1:6.
This is the King
In
James.
the Hebrew, yeah, well, it doesn't matter. In the Hebrew,
I think it does
reads,
matter when we talked about the belief of you using the King James as your validation, and you said
I don't.
you don't.
I never
You said
have.
that you read
I
a
never
completely.
will.
Go on ahead. Go.
The King James is a translation that I take as a translation. In the Hebrew, it reads, promise, Elohim promise, occurrence, rakia or curved hard place, splitting curved hard place, splitting juices, appearance, splitting juices. Bayin is a word I don't know. The idea of between two things. Okay.
What do scholars believe? Since you've mentioned scholars a few
Juices.
times in consensus, do scholars believe that there's one firmament, or do scholars believe that there's two?
I don't know anyone who says there's only one.
Okay, that didn't answer my question.
As far as I know, everyone agrees there's two different firmaments.
And everybody agrees that there was only ever a belief that there was one firmament. Sorry, two.
I just don't know of anyone who says any different. I'm not saying there is no one. There, you can find somebody that'll say anything.
Yeah, I understand that, but somebody with validity and stuff, just because it hasn't appeared to you, I didn't expect it to appear to you. You can't know what you don't know until you come upon what you don't know. I can't hold you responsible for not knowing something that you didn't know. So, We've definitely slammed upon. You ain't fucking happy about that. I'm now making that screen a wee bit smaller again, bringing my beautiful face back on screen. And we're going back to this. So, give me doot, 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 doot. And that should be it. Okay. So we haven't even got past the second day, and Richard's annoyed. Okay. And on the third day, he commanded the waters to pass from off the face of the whole earth into one place, and the dry land to appear. Do you have an issue with that?
It's just the same as Genesis.
And the waters did so as he commanded them, and they retired from off the face of the earth into one place outside the firmament as the dry land appeared.
Well, at least now they're back on the surface instead of in caves. I'm happy to see that.
Okay, so you would more agree with where it is now. It just took a little longer to get there.
Oh, sure. No, that part's fine. It makes sense. Human beings are in water, there is some water in the crust, sure. But certainly not the majority of it or anything.
There's an awful lot of water under the crust, would you not believe? More so in recent years they've found out the water cycle, there's an awful lot, seriously, that goes like a bigger chunk than they thought.
Compared to what? Compared to what they used to think?
Yes.
Sure, I'll grant that.
Yeah, compared to what like say for toxic, arbitrarily, they were like, oh, water going through the earth, something like fucking 0.3%. And then they're like, oh shit, it's 7%. Still small,
yeah.
But 0.3 to 7 is like, fuck. It's
pretty gigantic compared to like ponds and rivers and stuff like that. I mean,
again, arbitrary, just something I've touched on. It's not my field of expertise.
Yeah, but obviously, if you have too much water in the crust, you have places where there's a lot of water in the crust. You get like landslides, and you get mudslides, and you get liquefaction of.
As a person who is interested, Richard, in the formation of the Earth, did you know that over this last 2 or 3 years they have been doing more seismic studies on the inner core, and it's not crust, mantle, inner core, outer core. It's crust, mantle, inner core, outer inner core, inner core. They have developed and they have found evidence to show and they can pretty much confirm it now through experimental evidence that there is 5 different densities, not 4.
And what's the differentiation between the most inner density and the next layer shell out from there? What's the difference?
Would I be correct in saying, from an analogy, you're asking me what the difference is in viscosity and density, and what's the difference between
whatever
the two?
They say the difference is, why they make the differentiation?
The solid iron core has just been made a wee bit smaller with another layer above it. It's a transition sort of between what was the outer core to the inner core. They've found one that's more like, everything doesn't have a fucking barrier, but it's a big enough but it's not a fading, it's big enough now to be defined as an area rather than an area of transition.
And they did this because of time differentials and readings from earthquakes from across the planet. Is that what
seismometers and earthquakes across the planet? We're looking at it going in, how it transfers through. Like when you put a straw in water, think of putting a straw in water, it goes and then it shoots. Same sort of thing. So instead of it going solid through, it diverges, and comes back out again.
And you get the signal in the wrong place. Yeah.
And with that little bit more accuracy that we have now with seismometers, instead of aiming for fucking, say, Vancouver, we're 15 mile outside Vancouver where the centre is, not Vancouver. So we're like, oh, and then we think, and that little bit has created this, I don't want to say belief and trigger some people, but evidential to show that there's now 5 layers to the core, not 4. I think Anton Petrov did a good video on it.
Hadn't heard about that.
Yes, so there you go. Some science knowledge. As I say, I ain't going to hold you responsible for something you didn't know, because you didn't know it.
Yeah. It doesn't change a damn thing about because I think the planet's naturally occurring anyway and has nothing to do with any god anywhere.
No, but as someone who is interested in the formation of this Earth and stuff like that, I thought you would find it interesting.
I'm not interested in the formation of the Earth so much as how it could be manipulated to reap the materials off of it. That part to me is interesting because I think the stories are claiming that.
I don't know which is louder, the fire crackling or the dog snoring, so apologies for the background noise.
I'm not hearing much of it like I was at first, actually.
Oh yeah, because at first I just lit the fire and like filled it with fresh wood. It was all right. Anyway, let's get into some of the Bible.
Use less gasoline next time, and maybe it won't do that. Do you use like a starter log or something to start a fire, or any kind of accelerant?
Tiny wee bit of what we would refer to as a fire lighter, and it's made with Irish peat.
Compressed Irish peat.
Well, I don't know. It's freaking white and looks like any other fucking fire lighter, but it's a giant one in the front, and it says made with Irish peat. It smells like paraffin. It's been soaked in paraffin. It's a fucking fire lighter. I put that in with some sticks that are thin, and then I put my box on. And if I happen to have coal, once it starts to click and shoot and fire, I throw the coal on, and then that'll keep it going longer.
Do you pre-burn or pre-treat the coal in any way, or just take fresh coal and put it on there?
It depends on the coal. I prefer to go and get Caper, high grade, good quality coal, but it's £22 over £18, and I know it's only £4, but the £4 makes a difference when you're fucking broke. And about 3 weeks ago, I got the super cheap stuff from the local petrol station, and it was like premium high heat low ash. I was like, just give me the fucking cheapest bag of coal you have, right? And it was like $1.25 of a saving or something, right? I was just like, give me the dude. Every single fucking block of coal looked the same. It looked like a little spaceship, you know, that UFO, you know, them wee sweets you used to get that were filled with sherbet.
Oh, okay, yeah, okay.
Yeah, they used to call them like space and something or whatever. I can't fucking... Yeah, every one of them was just this over... I was like, that's not coal. That's the shit left over that just went squish, coal, squish, coal. I was like, no, never say cheapest bag of coal ever again. Doubles is okay, but if you can get caper coal, right? We get caper coal over here. I don't know where it's from, but you'll get a piece of coal that size. Yeah. They literally just go, hack bag. It's... You know, and that coal lasts far longer, you know. Yep. Because it's bigger, the lower surface area. It's a math.
There's a good sized coal bed in the tri-state area, Pennsylvania, West Virginia, I think parts of Ohio. So, you know, where I spent some of my formative years, coal was one of the cheapest, easiest, most available things you could burn in your household fireplace. So people did. Okay. Let's see, where were we? Dry land to appear, and the waters did so he's commanded them, and they retired from off the face of the earth onto one place outside of this firmament. Yes, because humans live on the outside of the planet, and water and gravity and stuff. Yeah.
So you're happy with where the water ended relative to the firmament now?
Sure. It's just the previous verse said the other thing.
It was stage one.
I said I need a larger context. I admit that.
And on that day, 7 now. No, 6. Yeah, 7. And on that day, he created for them all the seas according to their separate gathering places, and all the rivers, and all the gatherings of the waters in the mountains and on the earth, and all the lakes, and all the dew of the earth, and the seed which is sown, and all sprouting things, the fruit-bearing trees, the trees of the wood, and the garden of Eden. In Eden, and all plants after their kind, slightly italicized. These 4 great works created on the 3rd day. And I'll stop there. I don't know why they didn't make verse 8 start on the 4th day.
I don't know.
That's a weird place to put an ending.
The numbers are arbitrary.
I know they're arbitrary, But if you were going to
Yeah.
be fucking arbitrary, would you have put it at these 4 great works, or would you have put it?
I would separate them by topic. Like if it said day 1, that would be number 1. Day 2 would be number 2. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Anyway. Okay, so this is absolutely impossible because the Garden of Eden is the earth.
In
So
your
there's no
interpretation.
place on I think necessarily within the definitions and the words used, and universally throughout the idea of this beautiful, pristine garden in which we will live and what we will destroy while killing ourselves off and hating each other for no apparent reasons.
Could I
other
make a?
than
Could I
just social
interrupt?
differences.
Interject? Could I interject and ask you a question? Would you say that there is a high percentage of Christians that believe that the Garden of Eden was an actual garden on earth?
Yes.
Okay, so this still aligns with mainstream Christianity.
It does.
Okay, thank you.
And a
Disagrees
good chunk
with
of
you.
Jews.
Disagrees with
And
your
a-
interpretation,
Yes. And a good chunk of Jews.
but still aligns a good chunk, but not all Jews.
Right.
Okay, so it's still aligning with a major popular opinion.
Absolutely.
So something that aligns. So,
Absolutely.
okay, that's it.
Yeah, and all you need is bad interpretation and a lot of misunderstandings, and this works just fine.
All you need some bad interpretation. Oh, fuck me. I was going to try and copy you and then stick aliens at the end. And I fucked it up, like. Yeah. But you get the
So
point.
sometimes the magic works, sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah, I know. As Pavel at work says, the only man that's ever been perfect was Jesus Christ.
And if you stick with Hillary's emails definition of perfect, meaning not without flaw, but suits the intended purpose, I'm absolutely fine with Jesus having a perfect life.
Right. We're going to start with you and reading and on the 4th day. We'll start there. We'll consider that this is the start of where the fuck's my mouse? We'll consider this the start of verse 8.
Okay. Garden of Eden of plants. Yeah. For these 4 great works. God created the 3rd day, and on these great works God created the 3rd day, and on the 4th day He created the sun and the moon and the stars and set them in the firmament of heaven to
Of
give
the
light
heaven. Of the heaven.
of the heaven.
Lowercase
Interesting.
h.
So it's numerical identity singular heaven, lowercase.
Lowercase heaven, from my understanding of what we gathered over this last few years of reading, means sky and above. Big case heaven
I'm with that.
means space. Are we in agreement there?
Yes, here definitely means sky and space. Yeah.
Sky and space, and God is
Sure.
putting them there. I'm under the belief that Genesis also says that God put the stars in the sky in the firmament.
According to a lot of people, it disagrees with some of the definitions of the words, but a lot of people think they should read it that way.
Fundamentalists and can think what they want and stuff, but we would agree that the
will.
wordage of Genesis, whether it's literal or not, says that God put the stars in the sky.
No, I don't agree.
I know you don't agree, but that's what it's. I'm asking, does that say that in Genesis?
Only in translations.
We're gonna have to get a fucking Hebrew co-host. All right.
Okay. So Hebrew speaking people will tell you the word that I created the stars also. A Hebrew person will tell you that actually reads I repurposed the clumps of stars also, which is not making them.
There's that guy that I mentioned at work who's in charge of buying everything, even ahead of the guy in the store. You know, he orders everything. We'll call him Mr. A. Mr. A is a Calvinist. I've mentioned to him a few times, that we do this and stuff. And he caught me the other day with my hat on, and I had my head down, and he was talking to my dad, and he's like, "Oh, look at Robbie, can't fucking wait." Well, he didn't swear. Can't wait to the end of the day. And I heard my name, so I looked up, and I was like, you look at me? And he's like, "No, just, you're looking forward to going home." I was listening to the Enochian stuff that we were discussing. I was like, "No, doing some demon research, you know. Told him that we were doing Jubilees and stuff, and we walked out to the car last Tuesday. He's done 3 years of Hebrew. He has actually studied Hebrew and
Good
can
for him.
read in Hebrew to a certain degree. And he's a Calvinist, you know.
Sure.
So I'd ask my boss, does he want to come and do it? No. But I'm sure he would disagree with your interpretation.
If he's a Calvinist, he has to disagree.
Exactly.
But that wasn't the question.
I know. I was making a joke about getting my boss coming on and I didn't do it right. The
That was
magic's
pretty
not
funny
good
if-
today.
Yeah, and how exactly would you handle that situation? Like, let him run it because money matters and you don't want to end up fired?
Oh no,
It'd be too
Alan
weird.
can't, Mr. A can't fire me, and Mr. A knows I'm the best at what I do, so it's fine.
Oh, good.
It's
Good.
fine. I'm the dude. Okay, right.
I've-
Back.
I've
Fuck, we
long
don't
kno-
read this at all when we do these shows, do we? Right.
Sure we do. Look, we're not at the beginning of chapter 2 here.
I actually, you can go and listen. If anybody has 5.5 hours, that's all it takes. Somebody reading this takes 5.5 hours.
Wait a minute. Now this 9 is objectively wrong. I can prove 9 is wrong.
You can prove that it disagrees with your interpretation. You can
No,
prove
no.
You can also
No, I
prove
can-
that it disagrees with reality, and you can prove that it disagrees with Christianity. What are you trying to be more specific?
Do we use the sun as a calendar?
No, but I'm sure people did in the past.
Nope. You have to have something to compare it to.
In what retrospect? People used the stars and the sun and were positioned in the sky to do their harvesting and stuff before clocks. I see it as that, in the question that you're asking.
Yes. We use stars to keep track of time. We do not use the sun. No one does. There's even people who use the moon in part of the calculation.
Oh
But
my
you
goodness.
literally can't use the sun to reckon a year. It's impossible.
Oh my goodness. Right. People, stop deleting comments. I've said it once. I'll say it again. Let his shit stay. Okay? Let his shit stay.
Well, to be fair, Titan wasn't here the first time you said it today.
To be fair, you're probably correct. Titan did come in later. But Titan knows.
Yeah.
He even said it when he came in. Not feeding the troll. I'm feeding the troll when I talk about him, and I talk about him when other people fucking ban and take away his comments, because then I get drawn to the attention of the chat. So just, the fact that you just ignore him. Use your willpower, people. Fuck me, I can't. Right, back to this, please, Richard.
And God appointed the sun to be a great sign on the earth 4 days and for Sabbaths. That's impossible. And for months, also impossible. And for feasts and years for Sabbaths. And years for jubilees. And for all seasons of the years. No, you can't. And it divideth or continues to divide the light from the darkness. Fair enough. And for prosperity, and all things may prosper which shoot and grow on the earth. Okay, sun provides for photosynthesis. Fine. But you can't use the sun as a calendar. That is just absolutely objectively false. No one ever has.
The calendar is based on the sun.
No, it's not.
The calendar is based upon how long it takes the earth to go round the sun.
Yeah, how do you know when it's made a full circle?
Me personally.
Let's say, just for argument's sake, there was a sun. Let's say, for argument's sake, there was only our solar system. All right, there were no other stars.
Right.
Yeah, what time of year is it?
I wouldn't have the information to do that without a satellite or more information. But what I would be able to tell is whenever it starts to turn by using the solstices, over it being at the lowest point and its highest point in the sky. I could use that as a starting point for a year's starting and ending. I wouldn't need
That'd be
any
fine.
other technology except two big tall stones.
Yeah, you could actually base that on plant growth or solstices or any number
The
of things
solstice,
where
the
the sun
position.
is
No,
in the
well,
sky.
what I know you could, but what I'm basing it on, you asked me, how can I use the sun to tell what time of the year it is? And I'm telling you, I can do that only as the technology I have without any of this on basic knowledge. I would know that from the winter and the summer solstice.
Yeah, how do you know that's a year?
Over time, when things happen again, I notice that the nights get shorter, and at the same
How do you
time
know
that it
that's
gets,
not?
at the same
How do
time
you know
it's
that's not a quarter of a trip around the sun? How do you know it's not 30 trips around the sun?
100,000 years of our ancestors at least being on this earth, and
They
them
used
watching.
the stars.
And I'm not going to say red house, red house, red house, red house, red house, but
Sure,
they,
sure.
you know, the solstice have been like the summer solstice, the winter solstice. They show us that
That's
it's a year.
that's based on the sun position in the sky.
Yeah,
That's what that's based on, which is the wobble of the earth.
yeah. But we can tell that it's a year by using the winter and summer solstice.
No, you can't. That might be a quarter of a circle around the sun. It might be an eighth. It might be a 16th. It might be anything.
Yeah. Okay. But like lots of data points.
Certainly
And
couldn't say that's 1 year. You can't say that.
people knew that a time around the sun was 365 years before technology, and they used
That's
it up.
because they saw themselves aligned to other stars compared to the sun, again, in the same place. That's how they knew.
Okay, so create a hypothetical situation where the stars in the sky don't exist.
I
Go.
just did. And I said,
Yeah.
how would you know what a year is? And then you appealed to the equinoxes, which wouldn't tell you that.
Okay, well, I don't know because I've never studied what it's like to be in this, and from the knowledge I have, like, I don't understand what the point you're trying to make is.
You cannot track seasons of the years, plural, but with the sun. 9 is objectively wrong.
Because they didn't say including the stars, did they say only the sun?
I'm
We've
gonna
been
read it
talking
again.
that long.
And God appointed the sun to be a great sign on the earth for days, and sun for days, sun for Sabbaths, sun for months, sun for feasts, sun for years of Sabbaths, sun for years of jubilees, and sun for all seasons of the years. Nope.
Okay. Right. I don't think that the situation that they existed in is the hypothetical one you're creating. And because the information is not there, it doesn't necessarily mean that they didn't use it. The sun in conjunction with stars can be used
Sure.
to tell the years.
Yes, and we did.
Yeah. But just because it doesn't say and in here and included, I don't know, like, okay. I'll agree with you right now in the information I have. I don't know if you can use only the sun to tell a year.
Right.
We will check that out in maybe an after party if you want to keep going.
Sure, if people want to.
But
Bree's very science-minded, so's Stephanie.
yeah, welcome to come and join in.
If you guys know, either one of you guys, I mean, I trust you a lot on these kinds of topics, or clout. If any of you guys know a way that you could distinguish that all 4 seasons are not 1/2 turn around the sun, or a quarter turn, or a 16th, if you know a way you could do that without using the stars as a comparative, I would hear you. I don't think there's a way to do that. I could be wrong.
We all could be wrong.
Oh, I'm often wrong, but I don't think I'm wrong on this point.
Okay.
And it divideth the light from the darkness for prosperity, that all things may prosper which shoot. Okay, we're just back to photosynthesis. Okay, fine. An 11. Where are we at on time here? Because I've been arguing with you a lot, not reading much.
We've been going for an hour and a half.
An hour and a half.
Which is a nice round time.
let's start at 11 next week.
Hence the blue highlight. Hence the blue highlight.
Lovely.
Uh,
I'm also making note of it.
yeah, make a note. Your wee post-its. Post-its are good.
Yep.
So, Richard, this weekend is St.
Yes, sir.
Patrick's weekend. St. Patrick's falls
Who?
on St. Patrick, the patron saint of Ireland. You fucking don't make me.
I'm sorry. What?
Don't make me go all Irish on you and start talking like this and hang, you know. Cloud's here. Yay! It's spring and fall that would be the same. You can tell summer and winter from the angle of the sun. And that's from Cloud.
Right. Okay, so that's wobble of the Earth. If the wobble of the Earth were twice what it is,
It's not though.
okay, well, you couldn't measure it at the time.
If it was twice what it was, it's not though.
If it's twice what it is, it would be evidence that it would be twice what it is. How do you know that the summer and winter equinox are not 180 degrees from each other in the sun, but instead are 90 degrees to the sun from
I
each other?
do believe.
How would you know the difference?
There is a planet, and I do believe it may be Uranus, that takes 4 times as long, or no, takes something like fucking 80 years. It's only been round from its discovery. I think it's only been round the sun 3 times or something, right? Whatever planet it is, I can't fucking remember the exact name. I was looking at it the other day.
Let's see, the approximately 80-year cycle, I think, is okay. It's either Saturn or Uranus, one of those two.
It's
I
not
don't know
Saturn.
which one.
No, if it's one or the other, then it's Uranus, right? And the reason being, its angle of the sun and its wobble and all that bollocks that we're talking about now,
Sure.
in objection to what you're saying, it has this massive one. It has 2 summers and 2 winters.
What do you mean it has 2 summers and 2 winters per rotation?
It's the angle of the sun and how long it is or whatever it is. I can't fucking remember right now because it's the way my brain works. It has 2 summers and 2 winters for every full circle. So I think
So it
that's
has a different wobble and it causes different seasons than we experience. Okay.
yes, but the point I'm making is you're asking how do we know that summer is half of the time and not 90% of the time? Here's a planet that does exist in that. You know, it does have 2 summers and 2 winters per one cycle.
Per orbit, yeah.
Per orbit.
Okay.
So we could go and look how the differences is between that and this. It is our solar system. It would be a relevant point. I got a brain fire, made me think of it. I can't give you details, but something to look into.
Yeah.
So,
I was just hypothesizing that it would be possible. I didn't know there was a planet doing that.
I'm pretty sure that there is a planet that does do that. If I am remembering correctly from my vague science knowledge, you know. But, yeah.
Dargendorp found it. Uranus, 84 years.
84 years to orbit the sun. Could you also check if that has 2 summers and 2 winters or there's something along them lines, Dargendorp? I'm going to put the link in the chat if anybody would like to come in and join.
A stick in the ground would not mark a year. If the wobble were different,
I think the stick in the ground proves
you could
it.
have all 4 seasons in 1/4 turn around the sun.
Will not get too diverged down that line. There is a StreamYard link if anyone but one would like to join. And we'll see about having an after party. We're going to end this and then come back again in 10-15 minutes. It'll either, where we're having it, Richard, here or yours?
On your channel.
Okay, right. So there's the link. Anybody would like to join, feel free to hit the link and come on in. And I don't know, we'll maybe break it down if anyone's got any opinions they'd like to share. We can flip and flop because it's the after party. We can share screens and stuff like that. Anybody but the one person. Yes, the reason I mentioned about this, Richard, St. Patrick's Day. Okay. St. Patrick's Day is Friday. Should we have a party on Friday, a hangout on Friday?
But your baby's going to be there.
Right. Now, she's not going to be here on Saturday night. But
That
that's
sounds
not
better.
St. Patrick's Day. I'm getting her a couple of days early because I'm off and stuff. But then her
Yeah.
mum's coming back from a wedding, and it's
But
plus
you're gonna
Mother's
have your
Days.
baby. You shouldn't spend time with us when you have your baby.
Well, she'll be asleep when I have the party.
Okay, that would be okay. Yeah.
But you see, this Sunday coming is also Mother's Day, you know. So I get her for a day extra, and then she gets to spend Mother's Day with the child. So she'll be leaving on Saturday. So we could party all day Saturday.
Past like 10 o'clock in the morning, your time.
Oh no, we could start at like 6 o'clock in the afternoon, 4 or 5 hours earlier than usual, and go and we could try and pull off a Sammy and go for like 9 hours or something, you know.
Sammy's been streaming a lot. I've
Fuck
some
me.
really good conversations, but some of them go so long that they don't load.
No, yeah, I know. I was on the other day, on earlier today, and it's just dead. Nobody was talking. Sandy brought up a wonderful topic, and it just dead. Everybody was like dead. I blame fucking.
Yeah, I had to jump in right after that and start a fight with somebody so they had someone to talk about, something to talk about.
Right. Well, we'll be back in 10-15 minutes. We will discuss. We'll have a poll in the next one. Should MathPig party on Friday or should he party on Saturday?
Do an actual
ESAU.
poll.
I do not know how to pronounce. Is that?
What?
I don't know. I was wondering who ESAU is, and then there's a certain word, and I know who it is.
Oh,
right.
Esau is a biblical character. That's a Jill.
Oh yeah, I got that. Yeah. Again,
Okay.
motherfucker. Right. That one will be banned. Because, as you know, Jill, if you're going to appear here, use your account. Be blunt in who you are. Don't hide. All right. That one I will delete because it's a sock. And on that note, we'll be back. If people join the hangout, we'll be back. If not, it's just going to be me and Richard having a personal conversation. Only if one person, we only need one person. One person joins, one person. If one person joins, then we'll have an after party. If nobody joins, then it's just going to be me and Richard hanging out backstage. Sorry for you all. But think for yourselves. Come back next week. Come back on Friday or Saturday. We haven't decided yet. But there'll be a Paddy's Day party. Probably Saturday. Day late. Yeah, that's it. I don't think I have anything else to say except thank you to everybody that comes and supports the channel. I do try and create a platform of everybody is welcome to show how much of a fucking dickhead they are. And yeah.
I have something I want to say. Beck recently went through top surgery and is laid up right now.
Love for back.
Would love to hear encouraging words from these people, you guys, who Beck loves. So if you have availability of contacting Beck to send out well-wishing and thoughts and heartfelt love, cool beans, please do that.
Okay, as I say, links in the chat. It'll be there for about 5-10 minutes more on, you know, whatever. If you don't close the window, it won't disappear. Everybody's welcome but the one. And yeah, think for yourselves, people. We'll see you back here over the weekend. And yeah, really do thankful for everybody who comes and watches and supports the channel. It really does make a difference to all of this. So yeah, love. Think for yourselves.